For the rest of my days, I'm always going to wonder what would have happened if I didn't have burner by my side.
So I really don't know what I would have done if I didn't have the burner.
But my first option would always be to use non-lethal.
When we fired the first round and saw what it could do and the punch that it put, I was like, holy crap.
Don't eat rice until you watch this. Rice is unfortunately pure glucose in starch form. It is one of the fastest ways to raise your blood sugar of any of the starches. But the Italians are actually very clever with their starches. They purposely undercook their rice in their risotto so that it takes much longer to break down the starches in those two foods. But what about people who use rice in a different way? Turns out 4 to 5 billion people use rice as their staple, and yet almost all of those people use white rice rather than brown rice. And 4 to 5 billion people can't be that stupid to do the trouble of taking the hull off of rice and making it white if brown rice was all that good for you. And that's because the lectins and the contaminants in rice are in the hull. A lot of people are surprised that most of our weight loss or gain is actually controlled by the bugs that live in our gut. And we now know from both animal studies and human studies that there are lean bacteria and there are obesogenic bacteria. One of the tricks is to give lean bacteria what they want to eat.
Avocados are really one of the best foods that you can eat. They're almost pure fat and fiber, and it's fiber that your gut buddies love. Tomatoes. Now, remember, tomatoes are not a vegetable. They are a fruit. And the scary thing about tomatoes is that the peel and the seeds have lectins, in fact, fairly nasty lectins. So if you have issues with joint pain, arthritis, this is not your friend.
People know that there's something wrong. They're eating healthier than ever, and yet they're sicker than ever.
And do you think it's stoppable through diet?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
It all comes down to this key aspect of your biology, and most doctors have no idea about it. Instead of following the blanket advice doctors give to everybody, you need to figure out which gut type you are and start from there. That's when you can start to notice some big changes in your health. If you feel sluggish, bloated, or gassy after eating, if you've struggled with consistent weight gain, or if you feel completely drained of energy even first thing in the morning, there's a very good chance you'll fall into one of the 3 major gut types. Finding out your gut type is the first step to getting your bloating, weight gain, or low energy under control. And I've included a link to a simple quiz you can take to learn yours. It's only a few easy questions. It'll take you less than a minute to finish, and at the end, you'll receive custom tailored information about your gut type. This information is completely free. You don't even have to enter your email to unlock it. The best part is you can take what you learn and put it to use today. So go ahead and click this video to take the gut type quiz and discover health tips that work for you.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I am doing a late night stream on Rumble and YouTube. YouTube has the dashboard of the Asian trading session. So if you would like to see the dashboard, go to the live stream on YouTube. If you just want the larger screen, that's fine too. You can watch the stream on Rumble. I also set up the links on my website for the stream, so you can watch them there. We're not going to do a simulcast with X Spaces tonight, but I want to go over
9 AI clusters, which would train up to 100,000 people by 2030. On va sensibiliser 2 millions. We will raise awareness among 2 million French people by 2027 to familiarize them with the use of AI. AI is an opportunity for everyone and must be absolutely used for the benefit of each person to avoid creating a new digital. France also announced they had built 35 sites ready to host data centers. During his first term in office, Emmanuel Macron made artificial intelligence one of his key projects.
I want France to be one of the leaders in artificial intelligence. I want Europe to be one of the leaders in artificial intelligence. We have the means, and we're going to create the conditions.
Since 2018, France has invested approximately 2.5 billion euros.
That's it for this bulletin. There's plenty more to follow on our website, france24.com. Stay with us.
This is Apropos. The global experts are here in Paris this week to debate the threats and promise of artificial intelligence. The summit is aimed at finding common ground on the rapidly evolving and disruptive technology, as well as examining how to keep France and Europe on the map as credible contenders in the AI race. Paris is expected to announce major investments in the fast-moving technology running into the billions. France 24's Peter O'Brien is there. He spoke earlier with Kenny Knight.
This is the first of two science days, and boffins that gathered here from around the world were very, very excited, particularly because of this recent breakthrough by DeepSeek. The prospect that we're going to be able to deploy advanced, powerful AI models at a fraction of the cost has got smaller players in France very excited.
Now, a lot of big names expected at the summit. Peter, you were able to speak to Yann Lequin, Meta's chief AI scientist. What did you learn from that conversation?
Well, I wanted to ask him whether he felt vindicated, because he's French, of course, and he's been absolutely championing an open source approach to AI for years now. That's what Meta does. They have these llama models that are very powerful. They get copied around the world because they are open source. And he's been banging the drum and criticizing OpenAI, for instance, for closing off access to its models. So when DeepSeek came along and blew a lot of the competition away in terms of efficiency, he sounded pretty happy. I also talked to him about his boss, Mark Zuckerberg. He said that more masculine energy was needed in corporations. So when it comes to AI and developing AI, I asked Yann Lequin whether more masculine energy was needed there as well.
And a big project called GETTR, whose goal was to basically build a large-scale LLM. And then, for various reasons, a smaller group in France decided that they needed LLM for their project. And it turned out to work better than the big ones. It's not because of the quality of the people, like they were both very talented, but the problem was that one of organization and management. One, the small group had a lot of autonomy, a low leash, was relatively small, and had a lot of freedom, essentially. The big group was, kind of top-down managed, more directed, and in the end, a less efficient way of organizing research. As we see the same thing with DeepSeek.
Yeah. Nothing to do with masculine energy or lack thereof.
No, not at all.
That doesn't come into it.
Absolutely not.
Peter O'Brien there reporting. Well, for more, we're joined now by Simon Colton, Professor of Artificial Intelligence at Queen Mary University of London. Thank you so much, Simon, for being with us on the programme. Let's start with the timing of this summit, coming as it does in the aftermath of the emergence of DeepSeek. How much of a game changer do you think this Chinese technology is?
I think it is a big game changer. Of all the various predictions of how this is going to change AI and AI funding, I think the one which I think is most sensible is that we'll see this as a World Wide Web moment, where it became a lot easier to make, post, and find web pages through the World Wide Web. The internet was not so usable before that. And now AI has become 50 times cheaper, if you believe the figures, to operate. And that can be just the beginning of it. If there's as much money poured into scaling down AI models as there was into scaling them up, then we can imagine hundreds of times cheaper. So that will make it available to organizations to use at scale a lot more often, a lot more down the tech chain, so that we will find that it's an explosion of usages of AI. And we might find that that will mean that money flows from the kind of data center area, where we're building up these huge banks of graphics processors, into more startups into more thin layer companies, which are able to run these models on their own machines. And then if the models get even smaller, which I think is quite unlikely to be perfectly honest, but if they do get smaller and they can be crammed onto a laptop, the really good models, not the smaller distilled versions of them. If the really good ones can be crammed onto a laptop or a mobile phone, then that is a huge game changer because we don't need quite so much of the GPUs available. So it could be a pivotal moment. And then, of course, there's a whole geopolitical element to it as well as the financial element. So I think it will be seen ultimately as a big moment in the tech arena.
A big moment as well. It also wiped a lot of money off the value of some of the biggest players in the sector initially. Does this suggest that, you know, American tech companies who pledged billions of dollars in AI investment, that perhaps that was a little short-sighted?
Possibly. Certainly the market thought that. The timing was just fabulous of the release of this. Not only was it just a day or so after the announcement by the American president of the Stargate project, 500 billion being pumped into infrastructure like data centers, but it was also just before the weekend. So that meant that the market had time to enact a kind of epic overreaction to it. It wiped 600 billion off the market capital of NVIDIA and $1 trillion off the NASDAQ in total. So, however, I kind of believe the line that if you make something cheaper, people will buy it more. There's an economics theory about that. So all of this is still going to be run on GPUs, and I don't think it will mean at all that NVIDIA will suffer in the long term. I think there'll be equally as much compute required for all of the extra usages of GPUs that will be enabled by this leaner, slimmer technology.
And Simon, there's a global AI summit taking place in Paris this week. We've been referring to it earlier. The UAE has just announced that it'll be investing up to 50 billion euros in a data center here in France. What does Europe need to do at this point? Is it those kind of investments that we need to be securing in order to become really a global player when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Yes, I still think there's very much a requirement for compute. Ask any of us in academia where we don't have access to these huge tens of thousands of GPU units, and we'll tell you that, yeah, compute is key. All of my Ph.D. students are always desperate to find GPUs in order to train their models. But there are other factors at stake here that will need to change as well. And I try and take a balanced view. I understand the value of AI safety and ethics, but there are reasons to think that the European Union is being overly careful, and that might.
I'm going to go to live now. They're interviewing someone about this judge pausing the worker buyout, the Fed worker buyout.
The 15% is probably overshooting the mark quite significantly. There's also some concern, I guess, from what I've heard about how they could potentially like ensure that this money is paid out, but I'm pretty skeptical that the federal government could actually offer people 8 months of paid kind of severance and then not deliver on it. If there's one thing the federal government usually does, it's hand out taxpayer money. And so I do actually think it would be a safe bet, but people are pretty reticent to give up these gigs, and I can understand why. But it's telling, I think, that it's actually incredibly difficult to downsize government. The way they're attempting to do it is nothing short of chaotic, we all have to admit. But if you support the goal of downsizing government, which I do, it's very frustrating. There's so many ingrained barriers to doing so, and there's so much internal resistance and so much litigation that kind of cogs up the wheels from turning. And so I can understand why they're resorting to these kinds of methods, but I don't know how ultimately successful they'll prove to be.
Okay, Brad, chaotic, yes, but what about constitutional? I mean, how can government agencies in the form of, say, Elon Musk, even, you know, President Trump, carte blanche with the signature of the pen here, do away with, say, USAID? By tomorrow, all employees of USAID will be put on administrative leave. There was this piece in the Wall Street Journal today that the White House is preparing an order to cut thousands of federal health workers who work at HHS. A White House official told Fox that report below is not true, adding that there's no such executive order in the works. We've seen a lot of these reports, the CIA offering their employees a full buyout here. Is this a way to go about it? Do they have the authority to do this with certain federal agencies and federal workers?
Well, I think we have to separate two different things. I don't believe that the federal government, whether it's the Trump administration or anyone else, has the authority to unilaterally close down an agency that's been approved by Congress and had budget allocated for it. I don't think they have the authority to do that. So that can be challenged, and I think they will be successful in a court challenge to that. But offering rank and file employees a buyout is something different. I suspect they'll have more latitude. It will have to play out in federal court. That judge who issued the pause hasn't commented on the merits. He's just delaying so that both sides can make their arguments. I think that's kind of categorically different and much closer to something that could be within the bounds of their authority. Simply offering people payouts to resign, that's a normal corporate practice, frankly, that employers across the country do all the time, and often much less generous packages than 8 months. But it is true that Congress is supposed to have what's called the power of the purse, the power to spend taxpayer money, but they've abrogated that power. They've given it up, very much so in recent decades. And I do have to say, I always want the proper constitutional process to be followed, but it is a bit rich to hear Democrats screeching about this, because they clapped when Biden tried to spend $400 billion without Congress on a student loan bailout that he did via executive order that was ultimately struck down by the Supreme Court for this very reason. Democrats lauded him for that, even though Congress had specifically considered spending that money, decided not to, and Biden said, I'll just do it myself. So if you want to have a strict interpretation of these powers, I support that, but I detect a lot of fair weather constitutionalism in the political discourse right now. Republicans who were screaming about Biden doing this kind of thing are now more or less fine with it because Trump's doing it, but also vice versa. Democrats suddenly are making arguments that sound a lot like what critics were saying when Biden was president when they were cheering.
Yeah, I mean, we have a live picture there of the Senate floor. I brought the news that sometime next week, I believe next Thursday, the confirmation hearing for Linda McMahon will take place. She's tapped to lead the Department of Education. Trump and his acolytes and allies, they want to do away with the Department of Education. And so essentially, why would you need a cabinet secretary in that position for a department that you want to cease to exist here? I'm just asking essentially about, whose role is what in all of this? Are you comfortable with the unilateral executive actions that we have seen with the makeup of the federal workforce, federal agencies writ large here? Is the federal workforce too bloated? Does it need to be cut?
Well, first off, on the latter part of the question, unequivocally, the answer is yes. The federal government has its hands in far too many things. It's grown to an inordinate size, and our country is going bankrupt. We're buried in debt, and something has to give at some point, whether it's entitlement programs, whether it's military spending, and yes, to some extent, the federal workforce, though obviously the percentages are smaller on that front. But to the other question, how you do it matters, and they are doing it far too chaotically. I can't speak to the constitutionality of everything they're doing. Some of it's quite complicated, but I can at least say I appreciate them trying to do something. Republicans for so long have promised to cut government and then actually grown it massively. I can appreciate the fact that they're trying to do it. If they're going too far outside the bounds of the law, then obviously that's not the right way to do it. But part of this, again, comes from Congress just totally not doing their jobs. They don't pass budget bills anymore. They write laws that say this agency can spend this amount on whatever they want with this vague goal. They basically abdicated this. They've given the president huge statutory authorities that are far beyond what the president is supposed to have. So then, well, when a president tries to take some of that leeway they've been given and run with it, Congress is suddenly complaining that their power is being infringed upon, doesn't have the same credibility to it. In terms of whether unilaterally shutting down agencies like the Department of Education, I agree. You need a bill through Congress. Thomas Massie, the congressman from Kentucky, has introduced legislation to do exactly that. The Republicans should just take up that legislation and pass it and then shut down the Department of Education. I would honestly say about 90% of what the Department of Education does isn't necessary. And the necessary 10% could be integrated into other agencies. There's so much bureaucracy. There's a lot of misconceptions about the DOE. It doesn't teach students. It doesn't pay teachers. That's almost all done at the state and local level. There wasn't even a Department of Education in its current form until like 1980. So getting rid of it, critics will fearmonger about this and say like they're defunding teachers, they're bankrupting your schools. It's actually a lot of subsidy programs and regulations and one size fits all oversight and bureaucracy. So getting rid of it is not the radical idea that some wanted to make it out to be, but they should go through a proper process to do so.
In the Free Press today, former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos in the first Trump administration, she penned an op-ed saying that she endorses this idea. I mean, she led the agency and she's all for it. So I thought that was quite striking here. Is though Elon Musk the most effective communicator and strategist and messenger for all of what we have just been talking about? Or should it be delegated to someone else in the Trump White House? And should they have started here with the federal workforce? You mentioned some of these other very, very bloated budgets, like the Pentagon and others, like Health and Human Services. Is it even going to make a difference? The intentions might be there to shrink the government, but will anyone even notice?
Well, they always will. I mean, we are still talking about billions of dollars that could be spent on something else or returned to taxpayers. So that still matters, even if it's a small amount relative to the massive size of federal spending. But Elon, look, he's obviously a genius in his field, but he doesn't know how government works. And so he's very much a bull in a china shop right now. And he also seems to be putting faith in people and information that half the time seems to be incorrect. So I do have some concerns about the haphazard approach that he's taking. But I will say, I'm of two minds of it, because it's also nice to see somebody actually taking action, actually trying to do something, actually trying to deliver on downsizing government. Just Republicans for so long would just say they want small government and then get into power and spend more and agree with the Democrats. We'll give you more money for your pet projects if you give it for ours. If you give us earmarks, we'll give you earmarks for your home district. But does Elon, is he really going to be able to tame this beast when he's an outsider? Yes, you could look at it positively that way, but also you could say he has no experience in government. He doesn't know how this complicated beast operates, and he's bringing in these outside engineers to like fix it with code or something. I'm kind of skeptical that that will ultimately work out well.
Yeah, I mean, Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson, they met for almost 5 hours today in the White House, talking about federal funding priorities. We got a government shutdown deadline coming up very, very soon, March 14th. And I would venture to say that I would imagine that a lot of this will come to a head before then. And so we'll just have to wait and see.
So there's two volatility points that are in the near future. The 30-day hiatus for tariffs. So you're talking about the beginning of March. All right. And also this March 14th issue with funding the government. Those are going to be volatile plays for the market. Now, I just wanted to just give an update on the market here. The S&P 500 futures is trading at 6,104. The pound versus the USD is trading at 1.24. Natural gas futures is trading at 3.36. Gold is trading at 2,887. Brent crude is trading at $74.32 a barrel. Copper is trading at 4.47. The Hang Seng Index right now is at 2,000. It's at 20,891, and I just updated the ticker here. I put in the Nikkei, and that's at 38,934. Okay. Please help support my work by subscribing to all the channels and making sure that you are going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and taking a look at the great products that I offer. Some of the products that I offer our structural nanosilver soaps. Get a couple bars for your household. You can get it in charcoal tea tree, very high quality soap. Get a couple or a few bars for your household. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off. It's a great way to help support your health and help support the work that I do. In addition, I have a very high quality structural nanosilver toothpaste. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, helps with your gum line, reduces inflammation, reduces plaque buildup, and with good oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and you're reducing the chances of valvular disease. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get a few tubes of this great high quality toothpaste, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals and we've developed these deodorant bars. I have it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and also in citrus. It's for males and females. It's a dual purpose product. You use it as a deodorant every day, but it also helps to detoxify your body. How? The ingredients that this is made from are from the Himalayas, all essential oils from the Himalayas, all natural ingredients. No aluminum, no baking soda, very high quality deodorants that are dual purpose. Detoxify your body, and you use it as a deodorant for males and females. Get a couple bars for your household, help support my work. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and in citrus. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the deodorants, the soaps, the toothpaste, use discount 5, you get $5 off. Thank you for helping support the work I do. And as we're continuing with this broadcast, keep in mind that the stacking and using these things on a regular basis is really going to improve your health and wellness. All right, let's, I want to go to Cudlow on what his take on, the news lately.
It's getting the TurboTax app and filing your taxes yourself 100% free if you didn't file with us last year.
All right, folks, congressional Republicans must not stop the Trump tax cuts. That's the subject of the rip. All of a sudden, nothing but bad news coming out of the Republican Congress regarding tax cuts. Some people in the House talking about some kind of 5-year extension of the tax cut. Senators talking about 2 or 3 budget bills that would put the tax cuts towards the back of the queue. This is very bad economics and very bad politics. And Republicans may be suffering from amnesia about the economy, which was the #1 issue in last November's election. And there were 2 components to the economy. Remember, last year, inflation and affordability. In other words, with Biden inflation going up 20%, real wages for middle and lower income blue-collar workers went down. Mr. Trump's successful coalition of working class voters was not based on race or gender or left-wing culture issues. It was based on the paucity of income. There are 2 ways to fatten middle-income wallets. Get the inflation down with lower energy costs and less government spending and less money printing, and wait for it, cut their taxes. Supply-side policies are always political and economic winners. Working class voters could not afford to live in the Biden economy, but Republican economic policies must give plenty of elbow room to working folks so they can fatten their wallets and easily afford the Trump economy. And if the Republican hang-up is a bunch of failed economic models from government bean counters like the Congressional Budget Office, well, the GOP should stand up on its hind legs and fight it. Revenues after the Trump tax cuts in 2017 increased by $1.5 to $2 trillion, depending on how you count it. $1.5 to $2 trillion revenues went up. Now, even the CBO admits it was close to $2 trillion above their early estimates. And although it seems arcane and a little bit in the weeds, the GOP should be using Senator Mike Crapo's policy baseline, which argues that making the popular tax cuts permanent have not yet, nor will in the future, cause a loss of revenues. So they don't have to cut 4 or 5 trillion in spending right away. Yes, they should get spending down to Scott Bessent's 3% of GDP deficit. They should lower the debt to GDP ratio. But the Laffer curve growth dividend from tax cuts will be huge. That's what history always shows. And there's another reason why the GOP should make all the Trump tax cuts permanent. The president wants it. He was elected partly on the tax cut promise. And as White House Spock's Caroline Leavitt said today, the tax priorities of Mr. Trump are very clear. All right, let's just go down. Make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. No tax on tips. No tax on seniors. No tax on overtime pay. Tax cuts for made in America products, yes. And then eliminate special tax breaks for billionaires, including sports teams owners or the carried interest on loophole on investment. These are presidential priorities. He won the election by a near landslide. His working class coalition, blacks, browns, Asians, young, women, males, that coalition was based largely on an optimistic belief that Trump could rejuvenate the economy and generate unlimited access to climb the ladder of opportunity. That's what elected him. Republicans in the House.
All right. So let's take a look at another. All right, I want to take a look at, it's about American energy here.
Au vent des 4 saisons, je tournais le temps, dans de mon cœur.
Here on set have Texas Congressman and opinion maker and influencer, Mr. Wesley Hunt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me on, as always.
All right, so look, I'm just saying the president won. He won on the economy. I'm at the border too, and I'm all for some spending restraint. But putting the tax cuts last rather than first strikes me as a really bad idea. And then, Leslie, second one, shrinking the tax cuts, which is what they're talking about with this 5-year rigmarole, that is diluting them. That means they won't be permanent, and there's no reason for that. That's what I don't understand.
You're correct. Like no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, making these tax cuts permanent. This is exactly the reason why he won this election. And again, this allows everyday Americans to have more money in their pocket to reinvest back into this economy in order to rejuvenate a dead economy that's been left to us because of President Biden. It really is that simple. I don't understand why we can't just rinse and repeat what we saw with TCJA, add a few things to it, and then just continue to proceed. Take the old numbers, add the new numbers to it, add what President Trump wants to do in terms of allowing everyday Americans to have more money in their pockets so we can actually live again, and then just move on from there. This needs to be expedited and done as soon as possible. It really is not that hard.
You know, thank you for that, but I would say this, sometimes even my good conservative friends, and they are good conservative friends, get too hung up on what the CBO is saying or what the joint tax, what these models and baselines are. You don't have to cut all this spending at once, point number one. Point number two, the tax cuts didn't cost money. The tax cuts made money. And I think they're digging themselves into a hole. This idea that you need 4 or 5 trillion, you do not. That is outmoded Congressional Budget Office, liberal, left, Keynesian malarkey. They should not be intimidated by that. Listen to what Mike Craig, there's basically, you know what, the existing tax cuts going back to 2017, yes, pay for themselves and then some. They actually, there is no cost to them. There is no cost to them. You can't say spending costs money, but tax cuts don't, or spending doesn't cost money and tax cuts do. Then you have a pinball machine on permanent tilt for more spending and higher taxes. GOP's got to get out of that box. They've got to break out of that straitjacket.
And President Trump is a quintessential definition of thinking outside the box. We also have to grow our way out of this. And a lot of my colleagues don't want to hear that. But when we unleash American energy and we allow this country to grow exponentially, let's see what happens. I know it's hard to plan for this because it's unconventional times. This is an unconventional president. And I remember a couple of years ago when Barack Obama said, you can't just wave a magic wand and have that much growth into the economy. Well, President Trump did wave his wand, and miraculously, we saw the most growth in his first presidency that we have seen in the history of this country. Why can't we do it again?
Don't leave the laughter curve. Don't forget the laughter curve. You're absolutely right. By the way, Barack Obama, speaking of whom, Barack Obama used Mr. Crapo's current policy baseline to keep the George W. Bush tax cuts in place. They called it a permanent baseline. It was a policy baseline. They should do exactly the same thing. I think Obama was a very smart fellow. Yes. All right, we've exhausted that. Now, you are an American hero.
Before we go to the next segment, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and pay attention to the pillars of the core for the protocol that I have. There are 4 pillars to this core. The first pillar is the neutralized pathogens, taking the max 35s, the max 14s, soak up free radicals by using C60 and very strong antioxidants, bring down inflammation by taking turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans. And the 4th pillar of the core for the protocol is taking Boomer Boost to bring up your energy levels and speed up your metabolism. When you do all that, you're going to see some major improvement. All right. So let's talk about the first pillar. Get the max 14 or the max 35. Take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20 to 30 seconds, then swallow. You're going to improve your oral hygiene. You're going to improve the health of your mucosal lining, and you're going to be improving the epithelial tissue in your oral cavity and in your oral pharynx. That's really important to boost up your immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the max 14 or the max 35. It's the first pillar of the core of the protocol that I have to really supercharge your health. So let's continue on. I think that they're going to transition into energy here.
After you're a West Point graduate, a couple of things on this, Mr. Wesley Hunt. First of all, recruitment in the month of January is at a 15-year high. What do you make of that?
Shocking. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can see when we have a president that believes in American exceptionalism, that wants to motivate young people to serve this country yet again. Imagine this. It's only about changing how we feel and changing the motive about what it means to make America great again, that this place is good. There's a reason why there's 20 million people that entered this country illegally. There's a reason why people want to be here, because we are an amazing country, and to have young people that are willing to want to fight for President Trump, fight for the America First agenda, is what's been missing for the past few years. And as somebody that served in combat, somebody that served 20 years ago in Baghdad, I got to tell you, I love seeing the face and seeing young people reinvigorated, a reinvigorated spirit for young people to want to serve this country again. And it happened in just the last 2 months. You know, amazing that paradigm shift.
It's probably not peaked yet. And my hunch is your fellow veteran and combat person, Pete Hegseth,
Pete, yes,
running the Defense Department, might have something to do with it also. I think so. And I know you're a West Point grad, so I'm reading in the paper today, West Point is basically scrubbing itself of all its DEI programs.
Yes.
Top to bottom.
Yes.
You approved? Have you heard about it?
I've heard a few things about it. I think I saw a few things flash up about some of the clubs that are also being scrapped.
Right.
I want to take a look at that, to be honest with you. I want to kind of ask a few questions.
Because it may not be scrubbed the way you want.
It may not be. And again, I want to dissociate DEI from ethnic clubs that are basically essentially just trying to talk about what makes this country an amazing country, and that's because of our diversity. What I don't want to see is people being hired or being trained or training being changed just because of the way someone looks or because of someone's ethnic background. But also, I do want to celebrate a lot of the differences that we have in this country. As a black man sitting next to a white man right here, you know what we have in common? We're all Americans. Yeah. But the culture in which we grew up in should be celebrated and talked about.
No, good for you. Last one. We don't spend too much time on this, but USAID, a very flawed program, is being extremely flawed. I love this story now. It turns out that the left-wing magazine, or whatever it is, Politico, media outlet, was getting money from USAID, getting money to basically defend Biden administration policy. The range in this discussion, they got something like 8 million, or somebody wrote up they got 35 million. My question is, not just why would a left-wing media outlet, but why would USAID be giving American media outlet money at all?
This is the definition of breaking down the bureaucracy that we've seen for the past 20 years, and it's got to come to an end. Thank God that Elon Musk is taking a look at this kind of thing, and this is a person that runs businesses. This is the person that has to look at his bottom line and look at the balance sheet and say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Not just like every other CEO, but also everyone else that does their own personal finances. We're taking a deep dive and getting rid of all the bloat and all the extraneous spending of your taxpayer dollars that shouldn't be happening. I think Elon put out on X a few days ago that I thought was wonderful. He said, how many countries tax their people and then send money to the United States? Well, then why are we behaving this way?
You know, by the way, the 8 million of Politico didn't make it. No. Damn thing's still unbelievable. The generic point, though, is every day, now the Democrats are in full-throated attack on Elon Musk. They're having rallies, and they're getting excited, and they're raising their voice. That's how I know he's doing a great job.
That's how you know he's doing the right thing.
Wesley Hunt, Congressman Wesley Hunt, thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
High-quality ingredients, no harmful pesticides. Stonyfield Organic, good on purpose.
Wix, one platform, any website. Unlimited creation. Describe your needs and goals.
All right, so now what I want to do is I want to take a look at, this is the Musk derangement syndrome, MDS.
Thank you very much, you guys. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and this is the story. We are waiting for President Trump at the White House, where he will sign more executive orders. His first 2 weeks have just absolutely been at warp speed, making past administrations seem, quote, almost like snail mail, according to USA Today's DC Bureau Chief Susan Page. Meanwhile, Trump's chief disruptor, Elon Musk, coming under a lot of fire from Democrats who say that he has too much power. And he's pushing to rid the government of a lot of wasteful spending.
Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and then be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war.
We will not allow the shadow government that Musk is leading to destroy government agencies.
We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected your ass.
Congressman Jerry Connolly and other Democrats are going to call for the committee's Republicans to subpoena Elon Musk.
That was the House Oversight Committee yesterday holding a hearing on resizing or right-sizing the government. This is Democrats fight the billionaire Elon Musk's efforts to slash government spending. Let's bring in the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. That was quite a hearing you had yesterday. The Democrats really seem to be gunning for Mr. Musk.
They're gunning for Mr. Musk. I find it ironic that they keep referring to Elon Musk as an unelected bureaucrat or whatever the terminology is they're using when they've stood silent over the past 4 years when unelected bureaucrats have seemingly been running our country. They've been operating their agencies without any oversight, without any accountability, and they've been doing what they wanted to do, whether it was letting employees work from home or enacting policy like forgetting student loan debt when clearly the law didn't state that. I support what Elon Musk is doing. He's being very transparent with the American people. He's tweeting out multiple tweets per hour saying what his goals are, and I think it's what the American people want.
Yeah, well, I guess your position on bureaucrats depends on whose bureaucrats they are. People tend to like their own bureaucrats better than they like other ones. But the Democrats are taking to the streets. The kerfuffle over USID has got them really worked up, USAID. Listen to what they've been saying out there on the streets.
We're here today because an unelected billionaire and his team have been given full and unfettered access to our taxpayer money and our government.
We know that we work for the American people, and what we're not gonna do is stand around when they pull this bull. We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected you.
Wow, well, they certainly are working.
I'm on it out.
I like motivating people. I like being told what to do.
Wow, well, they certainly are worked up. What's interesting is that a new Reuters Ipsos poll shows that if given the chance, 56% of people in America would suspend all foreign assistance, not just USAID. But when they say that Elon Musk has got unfettered access to American taxpayer money, he doesn't. He had, up until recently, unfettered access to look at where it was being spent. And now apparently the DOJ has restricted that access at the Treasury Department. Now only 2 Treasury Department employees with read-only access can look into where the money's going. But they seem to be characterizing this in a way it's not actually happening.
It's not. This is one of the false narratives that the Democrats have operated by over the past 4 years. They would all get together on a false narrative and work with their allies in the left and on the in the left-wing media to try to spread disinformation. What Elon Musk is doing is very transparent. I think it's very popular with the American people. He's looking at government waste, fraud, abuse, and inefficiency in the federal government and trying to root it out. That's what we need desperately. We can't continue to operate with a $2 trillion annual deficit. We've got to get spending under control. The best place to look, and the polling shows that, is with foreign aid. And the Democrats, this is a strange hill for them to die on, because I don't think the American people support foreign aid in general, but when they really dissect the numbers and realize that USAID hasn't been transparent with Congress, and we're going to find more and more suspicious transactions with this USAID money, whether it be to certain left-wing political media outlets or whether it be to certain left-wing groups that are spreading, and trying to indoctrinate people into left-wing ideology. I think the American people are going to support what Elon Musk is doing. And I said this at the hearing yesterday. Trump derangement syndrome is a virus that the Democrats have had for 4 years. It appears that virus has mutated into Musk derangement syndrome now.
Well, I mean, there are so many targets. Hey, we don't have time to talk about it, but I just wanted to point out that you've got a hearing coming up on March the 5th, at which the mayors of 4 sanctuary cities, New York, Chicago, Boston, and Denver, will be in attendance. So we'll be watching for that. Mr. Chairman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Dan.
Senior congressional correspondent Chad Perkins live on the Hill. So Chad, what's happening in the Senate right now?
Before we go to that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the magnesium and zinc. This is a great way to boost up your immune system. You should be taking it every day. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season, take a double dose. Take one in the morning, take one in the evening. Make sure that you drink it with filtered water. Boost up your immune system with magnesium and zinc. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off.
Well, it's a marathon session, a talkathon. In fact, Democrats kept the Senate in session since 10:30 yesterday morning and through the night. They're protesting Doge, Elon Musk, and the nomination of Russ Vought as budget director. Democrats claim Musk and Vought will steal the power of the purse granted to Congress under the Constitution.
Whatever the challenge is, whatever the fear is, what I want to tell you right now is don't normalize a president who is violating the separation of powers. Don't normalize a president who is violating civil service laws. Don't normalize a president who is ignoring the dictates of Congress and establishing agencies.
Don't normalize wasteful spending. Go after certain agencies that are wasting your taxpayer money, and don't normalize the Democratic Party trying to demonize Doge to actually making America great again. Right, Booker? Or whatever the hell his name is. He's a New Jersey guy. What a jackass.
Republicans have privately whispered skepticism about Musk and the role of the executive branch when it comes to federal spending. But publicly, nearly all Republicans applaud what Doge is doing. The GOP wants to weed out what it says is unnecessary.
Doge is great to hunt down where's that wasteful spending, take a look at the analytics, follow the money, stop it, and shine a light. And if there's some impropriety, shut it down and investigate and potentially prosecute. See, the Democratic Party has been wasting your taxpayer dollars. They don't want you to look. For once, the people that are going to be whining about Doge, looking into these databases to see how the money is moving around, they're trying to hide because they've been fleecing American taxpayer dollars. And then the whole national security state is all embedded in this whole, in some of these agencies and some of these programs. There's a lot of corruption going on.
Free spending.
There's a reckoning coming, and the American people support this. I think permanent Washington is shaking right now because they're really afraid the American people are going to understand what's been going on for years.
Exactly. Exactly. This is who is this? This is the senator. I'm not sure who.
Democrats have long.
I'm not sure who spoke, but I think he was a senator. But not only are they shining a light and the will of the people will get enraged when they start seeing the corruption of it. But they're going to want accountability. This thing could potentially blow up during the midterm election in 2026. You're going to have Democrats and Republicans trying to fight for seats in the Senate and in the House, trying to move things around. Maybe the Democratic Party gains some power in the legislative branch. But if there's a lot of corruption, and you can pinpoint where that corruption is going to, especially if it's going towards the Democratic Party. I'm sure there's corruption with the Republican Party, but I'm telling you, the Democratic Party, its foundation is corruption. I mean, literally the foundation of it is corruption. So it's going to cause problems during the midterm elections. So there's going to be a reckoning, and people are going to start moving away and wanting to punish the Democratic Party and the people that have been doing this. But it's also tied to the national security state with this corruption. And when you shine a light to this, my worry is that the national security state is going to try to orchestrate an event that's very similar to like 9/11. Well, but when will that happen? Most likely it would happen before the midterm election. So that means it would have to happen in 2025 or 2026. So we're in dangerous territory. It's important for Doge to find the corruption and find wasteful spending. Some of it's just wasteful spending, but there's also corruption going on. So they don't want to lose power. Money's power, right? So these agencies don't want to lose power. They don't want to lose their dollars, but they also don't want someone to find where the corruption is. All right. And because there will be a paper trail to the Democratic Party. So also Republicans, but again, a big part of this is the corruption during the Biden administration, the last 4 years. Okay. But it's not just the Biden administration. But once the deep state sees that it's losing power, money, and groups of people are shining a light on the corruption within the national security state, it increases the chances of them trying to get back at Trump and pushing a 9/11 event. Because if a 9/11-like event happens, then Congress is going to be investigating the event and the national security state is going to blame it on Trump for defunding them. And therefore Congress is going to knee jerk and say, we have to fund them and it's all Trump's fault. That's where it's a dangerous game that Trump's playing. He needs to play this game. He needs to do what he's doing. But the countermeasure from the national security state is to orchestrate a 9/11 event. When that does happen, if it does, Congress is, the whole media is going to blame Trump, and Congress is going to be forced to fund the national security state more. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we're in dangerous territory where the head of the national security state is going to say, you found too much corruption, you're taking too much of our power away, we're going to do something to you. And just think that the national security state won't do that. Just look at the history of the national security state. They have poisoned citizens. They have tried to overthrow governments. They've lied to Congress. They've lied to the American people. They've been given broad emergency powers post 9/11. The national security state is totally out of control. On top of doing nefarious things like weapon developments that are biologic and chemical.
Message opposing President Trump, but now the left has another foe, Elon Musk. Liberals are working to undercut Musk.
We are going to fight to fire Elon Musk, or at minimum, anybody in this country, anybody in Congress should at least agree that he shouldn't be given unconstitutional powers to enrich himself with our taxpayer money.
He doesn't need to get richer. He's the richest person on the planet that ever lived. Now the question is Congress really going to look deep into its soul, which it probably won't, but deep into its soul, and realize that the corruption can't continue? Now, if they don't listen to the people, and only K Street, because who's benefiting from this corruption? The politicians in K Street, the lobbying group, big business, not the little person. So NGOs are benefiting from this. All right, so the average person, we the people, aren't benefiting from this. We're actually being hurt because it's wasteful spending of our taxpayer dollars and making the society less productive. Okay, so they're not listening to we the people. So Congress wants to demonize Elon Musk, but they're not willing to actually stop the corruption and not listen to we the people. So where this is going to go is a French Revolution, where our representatives are going to be guillotined. The American Revolution, even though it was bloody and it was long, the American Revolution was tame compared to the French Revolution. Now, I hope the French Revolution 2.0 doesn't happen in the United States. But if it does, it's going to be extremely bloody, and we're no longer going to have our constitutional freedoms, because we're going to end up having some sort of really weird quasi balance of powers that don't really work. And there's going to be always this fight between the ones that have money and the ones that are the little people. So and that's what's happening in France right now. They've never reached equilibrium since the French Revolution. And that's why their empire collapsed. But I don't want to see our Constitution dissolved. But this bullshit that's going on with our representatives in Congress, not listening to we the people. We the people are not them. We the people are the ones that are voting. We're not being listened to. It's K Street that's being listened to. And if that continues on with the corruption, wasteful government, hurting of our economic prowess, where our futures are at stake, when their actions are existential to your livelihood, the only answer is a French Revolution. Why? Some people would say, well, you just vote them out. Well, the new person that you vote in is going to do the same thing, not listen to you and listen to K Street. So we're going to need a representative government that actually listens and stops listening to the lobbying groups, or we're going to lose our country.
Democrats worry about votes if he's confirmed as budget director, but Democrats cannot derail the nomination. That's because all Republicans will vote yes. The Democrats' protest time expires at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Vote could become only the second nominee confirmed without bipartisan support.
So let's bring in Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary, to dig more into this and other issues. Carol, it's great to see you. It's good to have our own private briefing today.
It's great to see you too. Thanks for having me, guys.
So the Democrats are really screaming from the rooftops about Doge, all centered around Elon Musk and USAID. Here's just a little bit of what they've been doing in the past few days.
First and foremost, Elon Musk, this is a dictatorship in the making. We're not going to have apartheid in America anymore.
So here's the interesting thing. A Reuters Ipsos poll that was done right after the USAID news broke found that 56%
I want to go
of
to.
people
I want to go to France 24 because they're talking about Ukraine's peace options here. So hold on.
Country's rare minerals in exchange for protection from Putin. Zelensky, who now openly contemplates what Trump wants, direct negotiations with Moscow, will review terms and conditions. And on the day that France has delivered its first Mirage jets to Kyiv, the degree of volatility the coming weeks and months may bring for Ukraine, for Europe that's still divided over whether to wean itself off its reliance on the United States for its own security, and for the broader former Soviet space. Today in the France 24 debate, Ukraine's options, and with us from Kyiv, France 24 correspondent, see you. Good evening. From the Ukrainian capital, she's a former Kyiv city councilor, Olena Halushka, co-founder of the civil society advocacy group, the International Center for Ukrainian Victory. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
From Odessa, we welcome back Hannah Shales, Security Studies Program Director at the Ukrainian Prism think tank. Good to see you.
Good evening.
Political philosopher Volodymyr Yermolenko is president of the Ukraine branch of the Ukrainian, rather international Writers Association, the Pen Club. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
If you're on the go, by the way, you can listen. That's right, listen to the France 24 debate wherever podcasts are streamed. Yeah, before the bargaining table, the battlefield, Gulliver Crag, you're just back from the front line in eastern Ukraine.
In Donetsk region in Donbass, the ever-shrinking Ukrainian-held part of that, where people are getting more and more nervous, understandably, because the Russians, although their advance has slowed this month compared to the last few months of 2024, are closing in on three key goals, which are the towns of Pokrovsk, Toretsk, and Chasiv Yar. I was speaking to those involved in the defense of Chasiv Yar. Particularly, I was struck by these two guys who were foot soldiers, infantry. They'd come out of the town on foot once their position became indefensible. And, you know, they said themselves that there really were moments where they did not think they were going to get out there alive. It's an absolute hellhole in Chasiv Yar. Ruins like we've seen in Bakhmut, perhaps even worse. But the fight is still going on. There are some, though I think an ever-diminishing number of Ukrainian servicemen who believe that there is still a chance to hold on to Chasiv Yar, or at least to inflict as many losses on the Russians as possible before finally giving it up, because the loss of these two hilltop towns, Chasiv Yar and Toretsk, will be very, very serious, have very serious implications for the rest of the Ukrainian-held part of Donetsk region, and the taking of Pokrovsk, this key junction, similarly. So anyway, you can take a look now at the report that I made, shot on Tuesday, sorry. The technician exits the dugout
sets the drone down, and swiftly heads back to safety underground, where the pilot is already in action.
We might be delivering ammo to our guys, or we might be dropping bombs to hamper the enemy's movement. Right now, we are just training, but in a real situation, what we would see is the ruins of GETTR. That's what it looks like now.
Hiding amid these ruins are both Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. The battle has reached the center of this strategic hilltop town. After weeks in this hellscape, Matvey and Alexander got orders a few days ago to leave on foot.
I am so glad we managed to make it out there safe and sound, against all odds.
I kept telling you to stop all this "we won't get out" nonsense.
All right, let's go back to Fox News here.
It's thanks to the fog. There was a really thick fog.
To see all foreign assistance programs suspended, which is leading a lot of people to say that the Democrats have picked a very weird hill to die on.
That's because there's no other hill to die on, because President Trump continues to deliver on the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail, and going through the federal government line by line and making this government more efficient is one of those priorities and one of those promises that President Trump made. And as you just cited, John, 56% of Americans support freezing foreign aid. And I read a fascinating article in the Washington Post today. They interviewed voters in Pennsylvania, and all of them said that they support President Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to make this government more efficient. What President Trump and Elon Musk and this entire administration is trying to do is make our bloated bureaucracy here in Washington run like a profitable business. And every agency has been tasked with going line by line and ensuring that the American taxpayers' money is aligned with the American people's interests. It's a common sense solution to fixing a decades-old problem of bloated bureaucracy, waste, fraud, and abuse. And the vast majority of Americans support it. So the Democrats can hoot and holler all they want. This White House will stay committed to delivering on President Trump's priorities and being good stewards of the hard.
Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz from Florida is a member of the bipartisan DOJ caucus, and he joins me now. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. I want to put up a number that is a poll number from the Fox News voter analysis at the election. And it shows that people were asked, how much change would you like to see in how the country is run? And 83% said they wanted substantial change or complete and total overhaul. Your thoughts on your colleagues who are very upset with what Musk is doing, despite the fact that he's cutting through a lot of waste in the government so far?
No, thanks for having me. That poll is exactly one of the reasons why I joined the DOJ caucus, is that I do believe government needs to be run more efficiently, and I do believe that government needs to save money, and I do believe there are lots of programs that are older programs or some expenditures that we can get rid of. That's why I joined the DOJ caucus. I believe in the mission. What is going on, though, Martha, let's separate the mission from the execution. Right? The execution of what's happening is not what was told. What was told is that DOJ was going to be an advisory role, and it was going to find these programs, make those recommendations, and then Congress was going to do that. That's how Article 1 of the Constitution works. What's happening instead is DOJ on their own is nixing programs that are funded by Congress. And so that is where there is some concern. By the way, don't listen to me, listen to Republicans. Republicans in November, The Economist did a poll. 47% of Republicans wanted Elon Musk very involved with the government. That same poll that was taken last week, only 26% of Republicans now want him very involved.
I'm aware of that number. You know what? I've been covering.
And this is why I said the corruption's also on the Republican side. It's not just the Democrats, because the Republicans are the ones that are pushing back on Elon. It's either lobbying groups that are pushing back on the senators and the representatives, saying, you know, we need to stop what DOJ is doing so we continue on with the corruption. Or you have national security deep staters saying that he's gonna reveal some of the nefarious activities of some of these agencies and how some of these conduits work with the national security state. This is another example of what I mean by our representative government is not paying attention to we the people. They're only paying attention to the lobbying group, and they're paying attention to the national security state. And of course, the national security state is embedded with the military-industrial complex. But the problem here is that we, the people, are not being represented in Congress, even though we vote them in. There's only one, so if this keeps on going, and your livelihood, economically or even physically, is being threatened by this group of people, then there's only one solution, and that is a French Revolution. There is no other solution. Tell me, what solution is there other than what I just said? If you have a representative government that doesn't listen, that doesn't care about you, or the little crumbs that they give you while they take insider information and become multimillionaires, have gold parachutes to be on boards or as consultants in the private sector after they leave government. And they're listening to K Street, big lobbying groups, and the national security state that, oh, by the way, wants to erode your constitutional freedoms so they can do whatever they want. When all that happens, what other solution is there? Tell me what other solution is there? There is no other solution. This is why I said information war doesn't work. There's a point where you have to educate the population on what's going on. But once the population is educated, once you have reached critical mass of education of the population of what's going on, it's only kinetic that gets things done. Information war doesn't change the real dynamics of the battlefield. It's only kinetic that does. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm 100% sure on that. And that's why Alex Jones has been correct in his assessment, but has not been able to do anything about it. Alex Jones hasn't changed the ball in terms of our health. If anything, he's gotten worse in his health because of his lifestyle. Did we go back to a pre-9/11 day with all of the exposure of the inside job? No. Do we still have gain of function going on in crazy biological and chemical experimentation and development going on? Especially in lieu of what happened in 2020? Yeah, we still have that going on. But a lot of people are educated more. That's why information war doesn't work. It doesn't change the battlefield. It doesn't change it. It just says, this is what's going on. Well, that's like during the, just before the revolution in the United States, during the colonies. Well, the king's going to raise your taxes for tea and for the stamps, the stamp tax. That's information war. But guess what? It took a real war to stop it from happening. And this is the point I'm making. And we're not going to revisit a new revolution or an American version of it or a civil war. It's not going to play that way. It's going to be more like a French Revolution, and we're going to have less of a stable government, a stable economy, and a less stable society. But that's where it's going. Look at the civility that's going on in the world. Look at the civility that's going on in just the inner cities in the United States. Look at the civility that's going on with conversations between Americans on X. Prove me wrong that the only endpoint to this is something other than a French Revolution 2.0. Because that's where this is going. You can't continue on ripping off we the people. You can't keep on harming the health of we the people without having a kinetic event like a French Revolution, where the aristocracy is hunted down. Because it's the aristocracy that actually is promoting this existential threat on we the people. No, but everyone thinks that just information. Think about the people that you follow on X, all right? And they share information about things that have gone on in the world, either the corruption with USAID or CIA, operations, Mossad, type stuff, and, the evilness of Israel, or the evilness of the cabal, or the evilness of secret societies. What are they doing anything? What do? They figured out a way to monetize the bullshit, and they get a lot of eyeballs. But did it change anything? Do we still have we the people that has an existential threat by the national security state and by our Congress that's not listening to us? Did it change the existential threat? No. Are there more people informed about the existential threat? Yes. Kinetic is the only thing that changes the dynamics, not information.
On time, and there have been efforts that Congress was deep into where spending was going to be cut, and ultimately it never happened. So when I see that number of Republicans, as you say, who were supportive of Musk, who now aren't, what I see is the pushback of Congress to not want spending cut. There is so much. I think we can talk numbers forever, but just take a look at this. The Government Accountability Report, $236 billion in improper payments just in 2023, and 79% of that comes from Medicare, Medicaid, federal pandemic unemployment assistance. So maybe we need a bulldozer to come in and make these cuts, and then move to Congress to approve anything that really falls more in Congress's venue.
Right.
Well, I want to say two things. One is we still have to do it legally, right? And so I understand we want to make these cuts, but we still have to do it legally. The second thing I would say is go look at the debt clock right now. And look, it's only been 2 weeks. I'm a reasonable, rational guy, but we can have this conversation 2 weeks from now. We can have this conversation a month from now. Go look at the debt clock. It's not stopped. It's not reversed. We're still adding to the deficit and the debt. And so the only way we're going to reverse that is it's going to have to go through the legislative body. It's going to have to come to reconciliation.
But some of it can be done by executive order. I mean, for example, USAID was created by a presidential edict.
Okay, but
USAID was moved out of the State Department, now back into the State Department. Those are all executive authorities.
I'm telling you,
I got it, but
there's an energy that's building up. It's a powder keg in the United States. What? It's an energy that's building up. There's frustration that we, the people, and our tax-paying dollars is not being used efficiently, and that there's too much debt, and it's going to break the economy. We cannot keep on going down this road. Now, there's many reasons why this has happened. Some of it is shipping jobs. Some of it is wasteful spending. Some of it is the national security state not being beholden to the people and not following the intent of the Constitution. You have Congress that's not listening to we the people. We have lots of reasons why this is happening, but it's building up. And so what's going to happen is that the have-nots are going to rise up, just like what happened during the French Revolution, and they're going to go after the aristocracy.
The debt clock. If you go look at the debt clock, if you go look at the debt clock that Thomas Massey wears, and I'm going to start wearing it because I joined the Doge caucus. The debt clock needs to start reversing. That's when we know when we have success. And so listen, again, I'm a Doge member. I agree with the mission, but we have to execute this correctly.
All right, Jared Moskowitz, thank you very much. We really appreciate.
We got to make sure that some of the conduits are maintained so we can still have some payment flows for corruption. Can't get it all out. Got to do it the right way. So the Democrats can still have their corruption, the Republicans can still have their corruption. And don't touch that third rail. It's not Social Security. That third rail is the national security state. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the elderberry zinc lozenges and also the honey, the Manuka honey lozenges. 60 parts per million, structural nano silver. Once you have an irritation because of, let's say, the allergy season or the cold season, mitigate that irritant by taking the lozenges right away. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a few bags for your household. Get it in the Manuka honey or the elderberry zinc. They're very high quality. They work great to mitigate the irritation. The earlier you take them, the better off you're going to be.
I think after they get through the things they can do with executive orders, they're going to need a lot of help from Congress. So we thank you for joining us today. Thanks, sir. Like what they're seeing so far, let's talk to two of them. Teresa Albano is a Republican from New Jersey, and Ranger Irwin is a registered independent from Nevada.
Oh, I want to play this on Al Jazeera. They're talking about the Stradivarius. I think they're doing an auction here. I can find it for them. I had to roll back the live feed. I think it's a kind of an interesting segment here.
Missing Palestinians, presumed dead in Gaza. Families have begun burning their hands and shovels to after more than 15 months of Israeli attacks. Backtrack over his plan to take over Gaza. He says Israel would have.
I missed it again. I saw it once before and I wanted to play it. I lost it. I can't find it. Oh, there it is.
So, and how?
Okay, here we go.
A rare 311-year-old Stradivarius violin is about to be auctioned in the US. It could become the world's most expensive musical instrument. Al Jazeera's Kristen Salumi is in New York to tell us why.
It was made more than 300 years ago, but is still considered state-of-the-art. Handcrafted from maple by Italian violin maker Antonius Stradivari. The instrument currently on display at Sotheby's auction house is one of just 600 Stradivarius violins still in existence.
At the time he made this violin in 1714, he was about 70 years old. And one would think that that's pretty elderly for a luthier, but at that point he had really perfected the craft, changed the shape of the violin, and gotten to the point where he had perfected exactly how to create the best possible sound.
Known as the Joachim Mob, this rare violin takes its name from two previous owners. Joseph Joachim, who is believed to have played it to premier composer Johann Brahms' violin concerto in D major, and Sihon Ma, a legendary US-based Chinese violinist who donated the instrument to the New England Conservatory after his death in 2009. The school is selling it to fund music scholarships for students. Violinists say the instrument's sound is like no other.
And when I play it, somehow there's a dialogue between me and these 300 years of history, the passage of time, the different life stories that have been invested in this violin. And that to me is fascinating.
Sotheby's put the value of the violin at $12 to $18 million. What bidders are willing to pay will be clear on Friday when it goes up for auction.
I wouldn't be surprised if it goes for 20.
$18.9 million will be a
20,
new
25.
record. The previous one set by yet another Stradivarius violin back in 2011. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
And that's the news with me, Sahil Raman for Net.
Wallahi, business there, أنا بتمنى.
Let's go back to Fox, but before I do go back to Fox News, we can have a great world where there's peace and harmony, the harmony of a violin, and understand the history that we all went through. But if we have individuals trying to take advantage of the public with their health and with their well-being economically, it's going to end badly. It's going to end in a conflict. It's going to end, it's going to lead to war and destruction.
President Trump, we spoke with them during the election. Welcome back to both of you. It's great to have you here. Teresa, let me start with you. You hear the pushback from Capitol Hill, and I think Musk is exactly right when he said, people aren't going to like it when we start cutting their budgets. Tell me what you think overall of the first 17 days or so.
I've been tuning in. I'm a stay-at-home mom now, so I've been tuning in all day. And I love the analogy that I heard before about how a boyfriend or a girlfriend rather checks in on the boyfriend's phone and it's like, they don't like what they see and they start yelling. I cannot believe some of the stuff that I'm hearing them say and cursing, and I think that they're very upset that this is coming, to the public eye. I'm naive. I had no idea where some of this money was going, and I'm angry about it too. I come from a family of hard workers. My husband's family are at work every single day, and you want to know where your money's going. Every American does. Yeah. Elon Musk is smart, and he's a little intimidating, but I trust that Trump hired him to do the right job, and I really do have faith in it.
So, Ranger, how about you, as a young man who is an independent voter and voted for Trump in this election? Tell me what your take is. What has impressed you? What are you concerned about, if anything?
I'm not really concerned at all. I'm a firm believer in Trump. I know that he has America's best interest at heart, and I feel like he 100% got Elon Musk to join him. Because if you look at Elon's track record, he's usually come back on lots of other companies he's bought, like Twitter. They let half the company go, and Twitter's been amazing since. He's really just he's gotten someone who knows where the heck to go.
Yeah, it's so interesting. All companies, public companies, have to open their books to their shareholders because they're the people who have used their money to invest in the company. And Teresa, it's a similar situation. As taxpayers, our money runs the government, dollar for dollar. So when you see some of these Democrat lawmakers largely, screaming about saying we're at war and that they are so outraged that he has access, but does that strike you? Are you concerned about the access? Because it's read only, as Dagan said before. If you open the file, they can't touch the file, change the file. They just have access to look at it.
I just think they're panicking. I don't think they're helping themselves at all. I really don't think they want people to see where this money is going. I don't even know if it's going, to some of the places that they're saying it's going. How are we supposed to know that it's not going in their pockets? They're putting up that much of a stink about it.
Sorry, Fox News, the word is audit. We need an audit of the system. That's what's going on here.
Why else? Then show it all if you have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
And again, I'm angry about it as well.
Ranger, I'm curious what you think, as a young man, because people in your age group really helped put Trump over the top. And as you look at this now and you think about, what young men have been unhappy about, just in a general sense, what is your experience? I also noticed that recruitment is way up in the military for young people, young men and women joining. What about that part of the story?
So I couldn't hear you.
It was a waste of was a
I'm
way-
sorry.
it was-
I
I don't know. Sometimes they interview people that are just idiots. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the probiotic. I have this in the veggie cap form. You can also get it in a powdered version that I like to take with soft foods. But this probiotic, very high quality. It's important to take a probiotic every day, a high quality probiotic. You need to bring down inflammation in your gut, improve your metabolism, improve the ability to absorb nutrients. With a better gut biome, your liver will perform better, your brain will perform better, your skin will look better. You're going to have more energy. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this probiotic. It's in the veggie cap form. You can also get a powdered version that I have. When you get to 40 plus, guess what? It's harder to maintain muscle. You're going to need to take supplements and to work out. So please go and work out. Proper diet, proper exercise, but also take Myotrol. Myotrol helps to build muscle and maintain muscle. It also improves the health of your mitochondria, so you have more ATP to maintain muscle. If you're an athlete, take Myotrol to gain strength. You can stack this with Gladiator Barley that's also on my store, and that's a great combo for strength training. So if you're an athlete or if you're older and you need to maintain muscle, take Myotrol every day. Very important. Drink with filtered water and do resistance training, do some cardio, but strength training is really important after 40 because for the ones that have maintained a consistent exercise routine all the way into their 60s, from their 40s to their 60s, they perform much better in terms of cognitive function. So it helps with the brain. You get better blood flow. You have more muscle. Your back will have a better posture. You'll have more energy. You'll have higher bone densities. So all these problems that people have in their geriatric years are mitigated by working out regularly and taking the proper supplementation. So please, do me a favor. Help support my work, but better yet, help support your health. It's through this routine that I'm telling you on how you're going to have a better life in your 60s, in your 70s, in your 80s, if you follow this routine. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, maintain muscle, gain muscle by taking Myotrol. All right. Now let's go to France 24.
See, if governments spend too much money in defence, they will get voted out, and the governments that will come in to replace them will be worse from the point of view of what Ukraine would like to see.
That's why I'm saying that it's not about spending more, it is about how we spend those money that we already have. The question is now not just to take 5% of the budget. The question is how we are spending those two that we allocated. And most of the military are really doubting that it is effective in many of the Western European countries. Nordic at least seeing that a lot of the spending in Germany are very ineffective.
But you're not saying that 2% would be enough if only we spent it more cleverly.
Caliber, can I jump in? Yeah.
It could improve efficiency a bit.
There are two counter arguments to your point. The first is if Russia is not stopped here in Ukraine, there will be a bigger war in Europe. And then everything will be spent, well, you want it or not, but everything will be spent on defense. Otherwise, there will be a threat to European democracies much bigger than even those problems that democracies have now. So the military spending will increase at the expense of the healthcare, at the expense of schooling, education, and all other good things. The second counterpoint, I think here Hanna is correct. I would put it in a different way. We recently went to Sumy region in the north of Ukraine, and we spoke to soldiers who are downing the Russian drones, the Shahed Russian-Iranian drones, and they showed us the fragment of these drones. And if you look at the drone, you understand how cheap it is to produce. It's very deadly. It can kill people. It can destroy houses, but it's very cheap. So it's not in order to fight these drones, you need to have cheaper weapons as well, because you cannot spend too much expensive weapons. And the debate around spending and security spending is sometimes a debate about money. It's not only it should be a debate about money. It's a debate about how efficiently we spend it. It's not necessarily that if we build a very expensive tank, it will be more successful on the front line.
So you need the right weapons for this kind of war, and you need the right intelligence.
And you need to right quantity, because Russia is about quantity, and that's very important.
Olena Halushka, Kyiv is very far away from Washington. But right now, there's a lot of turbulence there. This week, we saw the Central Intelligence Agency offer its agents voluntary severance pay if they wanted it, if they didn't feel like signing on to the remit they're going to have going forward. And many have accepted, apparently. The turbulence in Washington, how does it affect you?
Well, of course, Ukraine is present protecting, defending itself from the existential fight. So the turbulence in Washington directly affects our affairs. But I would like to add, to this discussion which my colleagues had regarding the money, the resources. There actually are money that can be spent for the Ukrainian self-defense and Ukrainian reconstruction and rebuilding of our energy infrastructure even today, even without sending the bill for the Western taxpayers' money. And here, I mean, the assets of the Russian central bank, $300 billion that were frozen in the first days of the full-scale war in G7 countries. If those money are confiscated and spent into the bank as the reserve for Ukraine, we would be much less dependent on the political turbulences, because this is not only about Washington. The elections were coming in Germany. We are very closely following the political dynamics in France, Romanian presidential elections, and so on and so forth. If we go for establishment of the secure reserve of the money, and according to the international lawyers, this confiscation would be a lawful countermeasure. And this money can be set as an offset payment for the reparations. Russia has already inflicted at Ukraine almost $500 billion damages. And we are speaking about $300 billion. And this money already started working for Ukraine, because the windfall profits on the frozen Russian assets in 2024 were already taken away and invested into Ukrainian defense. And even the French Ministry of Defense received 300 million euros that were invested into procurements of the Caesar howitzers, shells, and missiles. So I think that confiscation is done, that can be a mutually beneficial.
So let me ask you about this, Elena, because in the world's currency is the US dollar. In the closing days of his administration, Joe Biden tightened the sanctions on those so-called ghost ships that try under the radar, literally, to transport Russian oil. Do you see the Trump administration continuing those sanctions?
We still do not know what will be the policy of President Trump, because in one of the plans that was developed by the envoy, Keith Kellogg, was the position that the sanctions might be partially relieved in order to incentivize Russia to sit at the negotiations table. But we think that we need to put the pressure that sanctions should be toughened, that this assets should be confiscated instead of being returned to Russia, and only by strength Russia can be basically, make to give up on their imperialistic ambitions, because they are reading the messages of weakness, and the sanctions really would be perceived by them as such, as an incentive to move forward, to get more, to bully other partners into achieving much more. As Hanna said, they never occupied Zaporizhia, but in their so-called peace initiative, they see Zaporizhia as the Russian city. It's very important to have the peace through strength, and this peace through strength would be impossible without real sanctions.
So, Hannah Shelest, which is the real Donald Trump? The one who appointed Keith Kellogg, who's a Russia hawk, pragmatist. He's he knows the situation well, or the Donald Trump who has nominated to be his head of all intelligence services, Tulsi Gabbard, who is a pro-Putin former congresswoman.
Donald Trump is Donald Trump, and his unpredictability and this cocktail of different views is what is the real Donald Trump, with whom we need to work and to live the next 4 years. That's something that all of us be prepared. And we need to understand how he is evaluating his candidates. It's not the same way as we, because she openly said that yes, Russia is guilty in this war at her hearings, and she is seen as the ex-military or current in the military, that the person with the experience. So Donald Trump sees her as a strong candidate, and he doesn't see those conflicts of interest as we saw them. And here is very important to understand that he always would like to have these two different opinions on the difficult issues, because then he has a maneuver for bargaining even inside his team, and he can just decide what will be more beneficial for him or for the United States at the very particular moment.
When you were reporting in the east of Ukraine, Gulliver Craig, what would you do?
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work and your health. Get the structural nano silver gel. You can get it in the tube form or in the dispenser. It's a dual purpose product. It'll help with your skin. You can use it as skincare. It'll help to heal wounds and also apply it on your skin during the cold season. So put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. And you're creating a barrier and you're mitigating the issue. So stays active for 5.5 hours. You know the drill. I've said this like probably 2,000 times. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the very high quality structural nano silver gel that I have here, dual purpose. Have it for work, have it at home, use it, and mitigate any problems that may arise. Another great product that I have is a digestive enzyme complex. Digestive enzyme complex is really important for people that are 40 plus years of age to reduce the load on their pancreas. This will help break down carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, reduce the stress on your pancreas so you break down your food and you absorb it. If you're an athlete, take digestive enzyme complex with your pre-workout or post-workout, and you're going to be able to break up that food and the nutrients and refuel your body, and you'll recover quicker. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the digestive enzyme complex. This is a very important product to take to reduce the load on your pancreas, break up the food, and provide easier digestion. Make sure that you use discount 5 and you get $5 off on any order. Okay, let's see what Gingrich has to say.
Yesterday, House Republicans met behind closed doors to discuss a plan to pass Trump's agenda. The meeting was reportedly contentious. One Republican described it as, quote, predictably emotional. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich joins us now. Newt, is Republican infighting threatening the extension of Trump's tax cuts?
Well, I think in the end, the tax cuts will be extended because even the Democrats can't go home, and they realize that if you don't extend them, you have a huge tax increase on the average family. And when that sinks in, do you really want to vote for a tax increase? And that's what you're doing if you vote no. So in the end, they're going to get this done. My worry, and I say this over and over again, they have to get it done by May or June in order to have an economy next year growing fast enough to increase the House Republican majority. If they lose the House next year, and we just had a report on this, the Democrats are going to go crazy with investigations, with fights over policy, with efforts to impeach. So for the Trump presidency to truly succeed, one of their highest goals has to be to keep the House. In order to keep the House, they have to get a tax bill through by May or June. And frankly, my good friends in the Senate just don't seem to get it. I mean, if they want to move early, fine. Move the tax bill early. But don't tell us you're going to move the budget bill or the border bill early. The border bill's easy. What's hard is finding a way to cut spending, to reform the system, to save a lot of money, and to have tax cuts. And to do that, I think we have to move together. It ought to be one big, beautiful bill, as the president said. Any step back from that risks losing the House next year.
What's your judgment of Elon Musk and Doge so far?
I think we're in a strange historic moment. Everything from developing Gaza to taking on AID to what the most fascinating thing Musk has done, very similar to what he did earlier at SpaceX and Tesla and others. He's brought in very young people who are computer geniuses. He's got a bunch of people in their early 20s who are brilliant. And what they're doing is they're using computers to run the numbers. And as you saw with AID, once they began running the numbers, they said, whoa, look at all this money. AID always refused to tell Congress what it was doing. It's a totally rogue, out of control agency. So I think historians will someday
This
say,
is the point I'm
Elon
making,
Musk-
is that you had these agencies that were not being honest with Congress during the oversight. Same thing's happening with the NSA. Same thing's happening with the CIA. Same thing's happening with the FBI. So when we, the people, aren't truly represented, but it's special interests that are, don't you think that we, the people, will get pissed off?
Junior partner to President Trump is a major factor in getting America back on track, in getting the government under control, and in saving the taxpayers a huge amount of money.
He makes news constantly. He's wonderful for the news.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work and your health. Get the collagen peptide. It has a very impressive amino acid profile. You can take a look at the label on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take this every day. You get a big scooper, mix it with soft foods, mix it with milk, mix it with filtered water or a smoothie, but take it every day, and it's going to improve your bones, your joints, your muscles, your skin, your hair, your nails. It's a very high quality product. You should be taking this every day. Do some resistance training and you're going to get benefits in improving your joints and your bone density. Get omega-3, take it every day. It helps your total cholesterol. It brings down LDL levels, increases your HDL levels. It prevents red blood cells from sticking, and it brings down systemic inflammation. Guess what? When you take this every day, you're improving your cardiovascular health. Americans are swimming in toxins because of the water they drink isn't filtered, because the food they eat is processed. Stop eating processed foods, start filtering your water, and clean out some of the chemicals that are in your home, like in the basement or in the garage. Some of those chemicals do affect your endocrine system and your immune system. The next thing you need to do is take zeolite. Zeolite, you take every day, take 2 drops, small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that every day, and it's going to bind to the toxins and the chemicals, and it'll allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take this every day. Some people prefer to do an intense detox maybe once or twice a year. For the ones that do that, take zeolite, do about 4 or 5 small drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water, do that every day until the bottle is done, and do that once or twice a year. But the bottom line is this: you need to detoxify your body and reduce and mitigate those toxins coming into your body on a daily basis. All right? But when you do that, your endocrine system and your immune system is going to improve. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. All right, let's take a look at another video that we're going to play here. O'Reilly. Let's see what O'Reilly has to say.
Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly to discuss the state of play with his early efforts and some other things that are in the mix. Good to see you, big man.
Okay, Cuomo, what's on your mind tonight?
So, being against what Musk is doing is a bad look, right? If you're not on board with getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, you're part of the problem. But, are you starting to scratch your head a little bit about why they didn't explain more about Musk and explain more about why he's doing and targeting what he is early on?
No. It's only 2.5 weeks into the Trump administration. I know it feels like 2.5 months. Donald Trump's not big on explaining. Look, I think this is just a hyped up story. It doesn't mean very much. I'm happy if Elon Musk uncovers wasteful spending as he has. I'd like him, as you suggest, to go into the Pentagon, which is absolutely the worst, and which is why I opposed Hegseth, because he's not going to do it. That's where it is just trillions of dollars of false spending, I call it. But you know what this is all about? This isn't about Elon Musk. This is about sabotaging Trump. Whatever Trump does, the Democratic Party and the Trump haters are going to find something bad with it. So I'd like to know if my tax money is going to Peru to pay for a trans comic book. I know it's small ball, but I'd like to know it. Okay? I'd like to know if the crazy stuff that the Biden administration did, which they, $44 million on USAID, and the list, if you go to Google it, is insane. I want to know that. And then I didn't know that the Biden administration paid Politico, a so-called journalistic outfit, $8 million to cover up for Biden. That's what they did. They wouldn't run the Hunter Biden.
We don't know that that's what it was. We don't know that's what they did. That's not the story. The story is the subscriptions, and a lot of Republicans were among their subscribers.
No. Their own employees of Politico said the report is on the story. They would not run it. So just go do your research and you'll see. But what really caught my attention was the New York Times today. Okay, then you know the reporter on the story for Politico said they wouldn't print the story. We didn't know at the time.
Yeah, but the reason
that Politico was getting $8 million from Biden.
Yeah, the reason we don't know that that's why they didn't run the story. People don't run stories.
Okay. No, I run if I go to they bring a story, I run it. Okay. New York Times today, conspiracy about Politico. Then I knew the story was valid. As soon as you get the New York Times running interference for you, you know it's true. Okay? Okay. So Elon Musk, let's get back to Elon Musk. I met him one time at a Hollywood party, which I never go to. But the guy who was throwing it was doing business with me in the literary area. And he said, oh, please come up. We're going to have a lot of people up there. And I went for about a half hour. I sat next to Kate Hudson, a beautiful woman, who asked me if I smoked weed, which tells me that she had no idea who I was. Okay. And she was like, look, who's this guy? And I said, I don't drink. And I was passing up the wine. She goes, oh, I know.
And did you immediately say to her,
no
I will with you?
No, I did not, because I don't do that. Right? And I'm friends with her stepfather, Kurt Russell, who I really like. But anyway, I'm giving you a lot of background on Elon. So Elon Musk is there at the party. And we were introduced, and he just looked at me. He knew who I was, all right? But he had no questions, nothing to say. And I don't know a Tesla from an Oldsmobile, okay? I don't know cars. I got barely put gas in my car. It's a struggle, all right? And I knew he had the cars and he was going to space. And I was going to be a wise guy, but I just said, nice to meet you, Mr. Musk. I wish you great success in your ventures. And then I went back to talk to Kate Hudson, okay? It was much more entertaining. So I don't know anything about Musk. But if Musk is going to tell me, an American taxpayer, that the pinheads in Washington are wasting my hard-earned money, okay? Then I want to listen, and I don't want any excuse.
Yeah.
I'm not worried that he's going to do a coup d'etat. I'm not worried because he doesn't have any power. He can't subpoena anybody. He just is an advisor.
Right.
He presents to Trump. Trump does what he wants.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and support my work in this interactive free-for-all that I call Telemetry. Tomorrow I'll be doing another show. I will have X Spaces simulcasting, so you'll be able to chime in, ask questions. So, please stay tuned for tomorrow's show. But please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. You get $5 off any order, and get great products like C60. C60 is a very strong antioxidant. It'll soak up free radicals. It will bring down the stress in the cell and in the tissue, so your organ systems will perform better. When your organ systems perform better, guess what? Your body performs better. Now, with C60, as it's soaking up those free radicals and reducing the stress in the cell, it's also improving the mitochondrial health. That means you're going to have more ATP, you're going to have more energy. And energy is correlated to better health. So if you have more energy, that means your bodily systems have the energy it needs to properly function and heal. That means that your endocrine system is going to work better. That means your immune system is going to work better. That means your organs are going to work better. In addition, with better mitochondrial health and more ATP, that also translates to better neural health. Neurons need a lot of ATP, all right? So when you get older and you start to have neurological dysfunction and your memory starts to go and you're not moving as well, a big part of that is a lack of energy, a lack of healthy mitochondria. And you want to improve the health of the mitochondria, and you want to increase your energy levels. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60. I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration. C60 is a carbon molecule of 60 carbon. It looks like a soccer ball. It's a fullerene or a buckyball. There's different terms. But the way it's designed, it is able to soak up a lot of free radicals. So when you're soaking up these free radicals, what will happen is you're reducing the stress on the cell and making the cell healthier and slowing down the aging process. Now, I've mentioned multiple times, when you bring down reactive oxygen species, when you bring down the free radicals in your bloodstream, you're reducing oxidized LDL. And when you reduce the concentration of oxidized LDL, you're reducing the chances of plaque formation. So that means you're improving your cardiovascular health. So C60 has a lot of benefits. I take a teaspoon a day. So take a teaspoon every day. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil. The C60 molecule has to be suspended in oil to be able to absorb. For the best absorption, after you take a teaspoon of this, the best absorption is on an empty stomach. If you're working out, take it before your workout. And what it'll do is it'll soak up the free radicals that are being created while you're working out, and your recovery time will improve. This stuff is very potent, and it's part of that core health protocol that I have. And one of the pillars is a strong antioxidant like C60. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this. It's really going to do wonders. Take a teaspoon a day, every day. Do that for a year. Just follow my advice. If you don't do anything else, even though you should, but let's say you don't do anything else, and you take a teaspoon of this a day for 1 year, you're going to have major benefits in your health. But the thing is, if you follow this protocol, you follow the 4 pillars of the core, and you stack that with other supplements that I talk about throughout this broadcast and all my broadcasts, you're really going to supercharge your health. So do that little experiment if you don't trust me. get the C60, take it for a year. Take a teaspoon a day for a year and do it before and after. And you're going to see wonders. You're going to notice that big things are going to happen for your health. Another pillar of the core is to boost up your energy levels and your metabolism. All right. Boomer Boost will do that. It has 68 nutrients. There's an extensive supplement profile that's in the powder. You can read the label on my website at your leisure. This will help with cardiovascular health. This will help with brain health. This will help to gain strength, help with your muscles, boost up energy levels, and improve your metabolism. When that happens, you're going to start losing weight. Not only that, you can use, because this is like a superfood, especially when you mix it with the barley. You can use this as a breakfast or a lunch. And so you mix it with soft foods. This is how I do it. I take it during lunch, I mix it with hummus, with some other things in the hummus, like lignans and probiotics, right? And the barley and all this. So all my powders go into the hummus when I'm preparing just that meal. So I have the hummus homemade in a batch, and then have just that lunch meal, and then add the powder to that lunch meal. But the point here is you take it once a day. So there's a big scooper, you mix it with the soft foods, you can mix it in a smoothie, you can mix it with just filtered water. Some people mix it with milk. It's up to you. I prefer to mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You take it every day, and that's your breakfast or lunch. So you're going to save money, and you're going to have more energy. And guess what? You're going to be healthier, and you're going to lose weight, and you're going to be able to control your diabetes. So take this every day, all right, and really supercharge your health. Now, again, this is the fourth pillar in the core. The fourth pillar in the core of my health protocol. The first pillar, max 35 or the max 14. Second, C60. The third, turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down inflammation. The fourth, boost up metabolism and your energy levels. All right. So take this every day, and you'll start to notice that you're losing weight. Now you can couple it. It works even better when you add barley, heirloom barley, or gladiator barley. And let me tell you the differences. Gladiator barleys will bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase, detoxify your body, but it will also help with gaining strength, especially if you're doing weight training. So if you're an athlete, take the gladiator barley by itself or add it to the Boomer Boost. If you're older and you want to get healthy, and you want to gain strength, take gladiator barley and take the Boomer Boost. Do that once a day, either breakfast or lunch. I prefer to do it during my lunch. The reason why is I eat grapefruit, fresh grapefruit for breakfast. So take the Boomer Boost, either breakfast or lunch, big scooper, and then takes about 3 or 4 small scoops of the gladiator barley. This is high density protein, but it'll also help detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and gain strength, especially when you couple it with the Boomer Boost and you're doing the weight training. All right, you can do this if you're older and you want to get healthy, or if you're an athlete, you're going to gain strength by doing this. This combo here, if you're an athlete, would really supercharge your athletics. But you can also take the heirloom barley. This is more focused on the detox and not the strength. All right. So you get the added benefit of strength with the gladiator barley, but the heirloom barley is more focused on the detox to reduce the inflammation and, soaking up the free radicals with superoxide dismutase. Now I've created a box called the Longevity Boost Box. I have discounted that box in such a way where you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. All right, and then you can also apply discount 5 on top of that. So there's many ways to get these at a discount price. Buying the longevity boxes and the anti-aging boxes and using the discount 5 or buying them separately. It's up to you. But I've created all these different price points to try to get good products, high quality products in your hands so you get healthy. Now, like I said, if you want to lose weight, gain strength, and control your A1C levels, this is the combo that you should be doing. And guess what? I'm pretty sure that the cost of this cost of the Boomer Boost plus the cost of the Gladiator barley for 1 month supply, and actually this is about 1 month of supply, and this is about a little bit more than 1 month supply. But 1 month supply of this is a lot cheaper than what you pay for breakfast or lunch for a month. So, and you're going to get healthy and lose weight and control A1C levels. So I have told you the recipe to get healthy. There's lots of ways to plug and play these combos that I've talked about in all my shows. Please follow my lead. I take this to the extreme. I know that. And a lot of people follow my lead exactly, and other people prefer to mix and match for their needs or because of their budget. I understand that, and that's why I've tried to create these anti-aging boxes at a discount and apply the discount 5. I want to get the products in your hands because they are very powerful and the protocol works. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work so we can continue on this wonderful journey of the Trump administration. Because like I said, in 2025, 10 years of history is going to be all packed into one. And everyone is saying basically the same thing. A lot is going to be happening. Thank you for listening. Let me just, before I sign off, I just want to bring up the market for the ones that are watching the market telemetry for the dashboard. The S&P 500 futures is trading at 6,105. The British pound versus the USD is trading at 1.24. Natural gas is trading at 3.37. Gold is trading at 2,889. Brent crude is trading up at $74.69 a barrel. Copper is trading at 4.49. The Hang Seng Index is up during the Asian session because this is all live. We're talking about the Asian session right now. 21,113, and the Nikkei Japanese index is trading at 38,893. So that's the market for the Asian session. I appreciate for the ones that have been watching on Rumble with the live stream and on YouTube with the live stream with the dashboard. Just to remind the audience, you can also watch live on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and you can choose either the larger screen or the dashboard version. It's up to you. Tomorrow I'll be doing another show. I'll be doing a simulcast on X Spaces. Please watch the show, chime in, ask questions. It's supposed to be interactive. So thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. You have a good night. Everyone stay safe and follow my advice. Get healthy. It's a holistic approach. It is in your power to do if you listen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything. It's time to go to bed now. Sayonara.